Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Jashanac here to talk about a couple of friggin' books. I do technically have 3 books that I recently completed, but one is for a different little project, so I'm gonna hold off on talking about that one for now. Also, I wanted to give a little update because a lot of people were, I don't know, very nice and seemed interested to see the progress of my tattoo, because I did have another session this past week, and I got the dragon filled in and shaded in, and I love it. And then also some of the coloring, and there's like little bits here because it's, you know, flaking. But yeah, started the watercolor, and I freaking love it. I'm so excited, so freaking excited. It hurt so bad, oh my god. So fucking bad. And this was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours-ish. And I will definitely need another, because that watercolor is going to come all down, like I said before. And I'm nervous that it's going to hurt so fucking bad. I really like how it's looking, and I'm just very, very excited for it to be finished. Not only so I don't have to feel the pain anymore, but then so it's done. So, okay, the 2 books I finished recently. This first one is Stern Men by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is actually, I believe, her first novel. Yeah, a wonderful first novel. There we go. She had written Eat, Pray, Love already, and I think maybe one other like memoir or something. But this one was her first novel. It's a little shorter than her other ones that I've read. City of Girls, obviously, and then The Signature of All Things as well. And when was this written? Hello? Yeah, it was written in 2000. So a little while ago, when I was a freshman in high school. And I quite enjoyed it. This one, I mean, it's adult historical fiction. And this one is about a couple of lobstering villages on these 2 neighboring islands. Off the coast of Maine. It says, Ruth Thomas is born into a feud fought for generations by 2 groups of local lobstermen over fishing rights for the waters that lie between their respective islands. At 18, she has returned from boarding school, smart as a whip, feisty, and irredeemably unromantic, determined to join the Stern Men and work the lobster boats. As the feud escalates, Ruth proves herself to be an unforgettable American heroine who is destined for greatness and love despite herself. I found that the blurb was perhaps not misleading. I mean, that's generally what it is about, but I think it made it sound a little bit more action-packed and dramatic than it was. It's a pretty quiet book, and the plot, there's not a lot that's actually going on. It's more about Ruth, that main character mentioned, kind of trying to figure out her place in the world, what she actually wants out of her life, because she's just not really sure. We have some very colorful characters. They are just hilarious. We mostly only get to know Ruth on any kind of deeper level, I guess, because we're in her head. We are seeing everything from her perspective. But all the other characters are definitely 3-dimensional and interesting, and like I said, very colorful, very vibrant characters. You still know who they are and what they're about, even though they aren't the focus. For the kind of atmosphere of it, I definitely felt the bleakness of the island. And I mean, I grew up in a rural area, in a rural town, so I understand what country life, what rural village life is like in the United States, but it was a different vibe because they're like, I think they're, if I remember correctly, like 40 miles off the coast of Maine. You know, they don't go to the mainland very often. They're very, very secluded, and the weather is all crazy, and it's just a very kind of bleak environment, and I felt that in the writing. And as per usual, the authorial voice was absolutely the best part of this book for me with Elizabeth Gilbert. Orange is a tab I use for something I love, something that made me laugh, and there's just so many lines in here that I'm just like, oh my god, just the way this woman words things. Let me see if I can find like an example that isn't spoilery or something. This made me laugh so much. There's this one guy who is just like an ass. Just one of these like old crotchety men who's just like, I fucking hate everyone. Everyone's stupid. So rough around the edges. Just an absolute asshole, right? And at one point he finds someone who had drowned. He found their body and he continued fishing for the day. He continued getting his lobsters. And it says, when he was finished with these chores, he joined the dead I won't say their name, in the rowboat and headed over to the dock. He tied his rowboat to the ladder and climbed up. Then he told everyone exactly whom he'd found in his fishing grounds that morning, dead as any idiot. That just made me laugh. Like, oh my God. Because it's, the author is writing this, and it's not first person. We're not in this one character's head, but we're talking about something he did, and just the way she describes it, like it's the characterization is so great. And something as small as this, we're talking about some people coming over to this one lady's house, a bunch of dudes coming over to talk to her, and it says, Mrs. Pomeroy made the men polite pots of coffee. Like that, polite pots of coffee. Because again, it's just conveying the vibe. Right? It's conveying she could have just said, made the men pots of coffee. But it changes it entirely to say, made them polite pots of coffee. I just love it. I love it so much. Oh man, someone who is like reading, it says, she took books down to the shore, claiming that she loved to read near the pounding surf. But the sad fact is that many places on this earth offer better reading environments than wet barnacle-covered rocks. Oh my God. Just crap like that. I mean, there's so many. Like I said, I have all these orange tabs. I won't read them all to you. But, oh God, Elizabeth Gilbert just does it so well. These really funny, clever sentences, like worded in ways where I'm like, who thinks like that, And it's just such great sentences and such great use of language. I love it so much. And as I said, for the plot, like not a lot actually happens in this book. It's just kind of Ruth trying to figure things out and interacting with various people on the island and having funny little interactions. And there's a plot happening. There's stuff happening and information gets revealed and you're like, oh, okay, that changes things a little bit. But it's not action-packed and high drama necessarily, I wouldn't say. It's just not the focal point. The point of the book isn't a high drama, action-packed plot. So for enjoyment, of course, I loved the authorial voice. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I enjoyed reading the book. Was it my favorite thing ever? Not necessarily. It didn't impact me super deeply or profoundly. And I don't dislike very character-driven stories. That's what she kind of writes. But I think I would have liked if there was a little bit more drama that happened, like something really like, oh my God, that happened. And the ending, like we had all this build up to like, what's Ruth gonna do with her life and whatever, what does she want? And then it was kind of just all in like the epilogue of like, oh, and here's what happened. And it was kind of rushed explaining like the big stuff that Ruth ends up doing. We just got like told to us at the very end pretty quickly. So it kind of took, like I said, the profound impact wasn't there as much. So I didn't love that necessarily, but I still ended up giving this 3.5 Pushinicorns. Quite enjoyed it. Not mad that I read it. I'm going to keep it. I just love how she writes things. Honestly, I feel like she could, like, I'd read their grocery list. Like, I feel like she could write an amazing grocery list and I would read it. And then I had a reread, which was Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. I have this little shitty mass market paperback that's like all dinged up. At some point I want to get, I think the UK like trade paperbacks. Oh, Jesus Christ. Whoops. I just kicked my tripod, so I don't know if I'm still the same. But I was saying at some point I want to get either the UK or maybe the US trade paperbacks. I think I like the UK covers better. But at any rate, Yeah, the first time I read this, I listened to it on audio. And I also listened to the second one on audio, and I started the third and then stopped at that time because I was realizing at that time listening to fantasy, high fantasy, adult fantasy on audio for the first read, I don't retain shit. And also, I can't remember if the show was over yet. I think the show might have been over when I started this the first time, but it was like either the show wasn't quite over or it had just ended. And it was just all way too fresh in my mind, where I was just getting kind of like, yeah, I know all this already. Because from the books to the show, for the first few seasons for sure, a lot of it is legit exactly the same. Not all of it, of course, but there is dialogue that is pulled straight from the book to put in the show, like word for word. And then there are scenes that are beat for beat the exact same. And of course, there's some stuff that got changed and pulled out and whatever, but largely, like, this book is like the first season for the most part. But yeah, I wanted to reread them and finally finish the series, and I actually started now because Jimmy and Leanna and Alex are all doing like a read-along of it. And it took me the entire fucking month to read this, though, and I did not finish by the time they did the live show. But I mean, I'd read it already, so I could have watched. But honestly, I feel like I might hold off on the rest of it for a little while because I think it's still too fresh in my mind. Like, I'm just too familiar with the show. And again, I understand that the books have differences, for sure. But that's the thing, too, is I already know what the fucking differences are because I've watched so many people talk about it. So even as it goes on later, I know storylines that are completely changed from the books to the show because people talk about it so much. And I've actively, like, watched them. So it's just a little hard for me to get, like, really fucking invested when I'm like, I already know. Okay, I've seen this scene so many fucking times, you know? But it is interesting to me, though, when I was rereading it this time, noticing how much foreshadowing is in the books that they took out of the show. All the Promise Me Ned and the Tower of Joy stuff, we don't get any mention of that until, God, is it season 5? Oh, God, I can't remember if it's season 5 or season 6. I want to say season 6. When Bran starts actually training and doing the time travel-y shit, that's when we get our first peek at any of that and first mention of any of that. And the Promise Me Ned, we don't even get until, what, season 7? Late season 6 or season 7? It's all blending together now, but there's mention of that in this book. Like, the foreshadowing starts way earlier. Which is very interesting to me. I mean, I enjoyed reading this. It's, A Song of Ice and Fire. I love this world so much. It is interesting to see the bits that are changed. But yeah, I might pause on continuing on for now, just to, I don't know, give myself a little more space from it. Or I might just, like, be going through it really slowly, like not trying to do, like, one a month or back to back, I might hold off for a month or two on starting, what is the next one? Clash of Kings. I might wait a second. Because like I said, I just found myself not being able to get super gripped by it. Because I'm like, I get what's happening. But I want to get to the later books where I know more stuff is different. But I ended up giving this 4 Pashinacorns on this reread. It's a little hard. I mean, if I had never seen the show and then I read the book, I don't know what I would rate it, right? If I was not familiar with this world at all, I was not familiar with these characters or storylines at all, and I went and I read this book, that's what I was trying to determine, like, what would I rate it? But I truly can't say. I don't know. And that is all, just those 2. Like I said, a very short little recent wrap-up. I'm trying to get through some of these other books that I'm doing for this little kind of project experiment thing, so I didn't want to wait too long to talk about these 2. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined and haven't already. And as always, if you want to just say hello but don't have anything really to comment, you can leave a little emoji. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.